Ready.
Yeah. Hello, dear all members. It's me, Dr. Ikram Manzoor. After such a long time, again with a very exciting topic, the very well-demanded topic. Many people just ask me about that. Dr. Ikram, when we are just going to give a lecture on Hashimoto thyroiditis, whenever you are going to give a lecture, like they were just naming a different autoimmune disease. So I was thinking that I should compile or simply make a bundle in the sense that I just cover all these diseases under one umbrella, under one name, and that is the autoimmune disease. Its treatment and management in homeopathy. So, welcomes you all in my lecture. Today's lecture is autoimmune disease, its treatment and management in homeopathy. Well, before starting this lecture, I really want to break this word, the auto and then immune, and then we will try to find that what exactly and how exactly, like it just is defined technically as well as practically. Well, the auto is basically a small short term that we mostly use as automatic. So automatic means that anything that just working by their own self. We don't need any external force or external exertion or something like this. Similarly, the immune system. So immune system is a system which basically protects us from virus, bacteria, fungi, and so many other invaders, whether they are just coming from outside of our body or inside within our body. So these two are actually the main function of the immune system. Immune system comes with so many glands, so many components like lymph glands, the tonsils, the bone marrow, the thymus gland, from where the B cells and T cells are derived. Similarly, if we see the skin layer, so skin in itself is a first line barrier or immune system. Similarly, we have mucous membrane like respiratory system, digestive system. So these are all actually the layers of the defense or the line of defense through which mostly the invaders, the things that is not compatible with our body, passes these line and then it create a problem. So in today's lecture, uh, I will try to just wait. I'm going to. Okay. So in autoimmune disease, it's treatment management in homeopathy. First, I will tell you about the content of today's lecture. So in the very initial slides, I will try to explain the very basic introduction as well as the definition of autoimmune disease. Then I will throw light on mechanism of autoimmunity and how it's prevented, like how the autoimmunity is prevented at molecular and cellular level. Similarly, the third point is definitely the etiology or the causes of autoimmunity, like what are the root causes of autoimmune related and autoimmunity problem. Now, coming to word after that, that will be the types of autoimmune disease. So these are further divided into two forms. The one is organ specific, and the second one is a non-organ specific, or simply we can say it's a general type of the autoimmune disease. So here the A dot or AD is basically pronounced it as a autoimmune disease. Now, again, I will show some of my biochemic aspect in this lecture. That will be the molecular basis of autoimmune disease. Again, then some common types of autoimmune disease with their short description and the identification and diagnosis of autoimmune disease. And the last portion will all about revolves like the treatment, the management and treatment within homeopathy and how exactly I tackle it regarding to my experience in my clinical practice. Also, I really want to let you know about that. I'm not saying that I will cover that entire autoimmune. That is a very complex topic. That is a very diverse, very long topic, but I'm only giving you a wisdom, a technique, a simple pathway through which you can easily understand this very complex issue, which basically comes under autoimmune disease. Uh, the very first slide is purely dedicated for about like how exactly that thing was just first introduced. So the Paul Ehrlich, which is the German chemist, the biochemist, sorry, had first introduced the concept of autoimmunity, and he termed this condition as a horror autotoxicus. So autoimmunity is basically the system of immune response of your organism against its own healthy cells. It means the system basically start destroying their own self. by doing some sort of action, by taking some steps, which is basically the cytotoxic step, a step which basically destroys the cells. Similarly, if you look the further, that it also against of its own healthy cells, tissues, and other body normal constituents. Any disease that results from such an apparent immune response is termed as autoimmune disease. So that's the simple, very simple definition of autoimmune disease. Anyone can easily understand this, what exactly the autoimmune disease is. Now, the autoimmune disease is condition in which our immune system mistake or bond. That is also another definition, because here the mistakes mean that there is something happen with the immune cells, that they, like those immune cells, unable to recognize the healthy body cells and the disease causing invaders, whether it's a bacteria, virus, fungi, which is just coming toward the body and creating a problem. So then it just created some sort of mistake. And as a result, instead of beating that invaders, they also start infecting, or what we call harming their own body healthy cells. So this is another definition, very simple. We will definitely look very deeply at how exactly this happened. Now, the immune system is normally designed to guard our body against germ-like bacteria and viruses. When it sends these foreign invaders, it sends out an army of fighter cells, which is basically T cells and B cells and phagocytes. Now, the T cells stand for the cells, which is basically comes from thymus gland. The thymus gland basically lies like within inside of, in our chest, in our trachea, very near located to our trachea. And the B cells basically comes from bone marrow cells. Now, if you unable to differentiate that what type of cells they're just coming, so let me give you one very interesting what we call the mnemonic, which you can use to simply memorize all the cells that is just coming out from the T cells and B cells. That is, just write it down with yourself. Let me not eat banana. Let me not eat banana. So let me not eat banana mean, the let mean leukocytes, me monocytes, not neutrophils, uh, eat eosinophils, B, banana, basophils. So this is the simple acronym that you can simply memorize all the important cells of our immune system. And we can easily figure out these cells, the number of these cells, through simply blood work that we mostly call CBC, the complete blood count or complete blood picture, where these cells are clearly mentioned in that. So normally, the immune system attacks only the foreign cells and can distinguish between the foreigner cells and our own cells. But in autoimmune disease, the immune system mistakes some of our body's normal cells and foreign cells, joint or skin or organ, and it releases protein called autoantibodies. Antibodies basically what's happened that when antigen combine with some sort of cells, so antibody just form. So that antibody that attack healthy cells, resulting in autoimmune disease. The autoimmune disease are broadly grouped into two categories. The organ specific, it means that it only affects one organ at one time. While the non-organ specific mean that at the same time it affects multiple organs or body system may be affected from that. So autoimmune disease are syndromes. Syndrome mean the disease having a large spectrum of symptom when it combines under one umbrella, under one term. So it's simply called the syndrome. So it's caused by activation of T or B cells or BOD with no evidence of other causes such as infection or malignancy was thought to be mutually exclusive. Immune tolerance and autoimmunity are now both recognized to be present normally in health. When abnormal, they represent extreme from the normal state. So this is a simple definition as well as explanation of how exactly this entire process happens. I hope so you just understand the very basic thing about the autoimmune disease. Okay, so this is a simple description of the tissues of the body affected by autoimmune. You can easily see that the thyroid. So in the thyroid, we have Hashimoto's, thyroiditis, and Graves. Similarly, in blood, we have leukemia, lupus, hemolytic dysglycemia. Similarly, in GI system, we have celiac disease, Crohn disease, ulcerative colitis. Similarly, in nerves, so peripheral neuropathy that we mostly see in diabetic cases in diabetic neuropathy. Then brain, the MS, the multiple sclerosis, the autism spectrum disorder, and the GBS, or what we call the Guillain-Barré syndrome, the psychological, the neurodevelopmental, and neurodegenerative disease. In bones, we have rheumatoid arthritis, ankylosing spondylitis, and polymyalgia rheumatica. In muscles, we have fibromyalgia, muscular dystrophy, and skin and the lungs. So it's all very clearly mentioned. Also, if you look at this simple descriptions or triggers are also mentioned: the stress, the hormones, the metals, the food, the antigens, the pesticide, and poison. Now, believe me, whenever I'm reading these word by word, so the group of homeopathic remedies coming in my mind. And for example, like under stress, we have amazing remedies like Califos, Causticum, Natmer, Magnesium Phos, Cuprum Metallicum, Arsenicum album, Calcarea carb. These are some amazing remedy which I'm using. Not only I'm using, but also so many homeopaths using in their clinical practice, day-to-day clinical practice. For hormones, we have some amazing remedies like Cipion, Natmer, Calcarea group, Laxis, and these are all the remedies that basically addresses the hormones. For metals, I think if you just go and like read the slides of autoimmune disease, the autism spectrum disorder. So in that lecture slides, I have purely dedicated one slide for like metals and the specific remedy through which it antidotes. Like for example, for mercury, the remedies are mentioned Heberself and Merksol. So Heberself and Merksol is a remedy which cancel out the load of mercury inside in our system. So you can simply refine this aspect of the lecture through this way. And I hope so that after refining it, your mind will be clear about that how we can easily tackle the metals and other thing and stuff. Now, in another picture, you can see the spectrum of autoimmune disease. So the above part is organ specific, and the lower part is a non-organic specific or non-organ specific disease that basically comes under autoimmune disease. You can simply read these disease, and you will then understand that how exactly it is by nature the autoimmune is. Now, this is the mechanism of autoimmunity. It's very simple. Exogenous mean from external side, from outer side, and endogenous mean from inner side, from inside of our system. So under exogenous, you can see the molecular mimicry. Mimicry mean that molecules are like disrupt this super what we call supratenient stimulation, the microbial and tissue damage associated in exogenicity. So these are the things that basically comes under exogenous. The endogenous, so endogenous is basically the alter antigen present action, increased T cell health, increased B cells health, apoptotic defect or defective apoptotic clearance. Yeah. So apoptosis and necrosis is basically the cell death. The systematic and programmed cell death is simply called the apoptosis. The cytokines imbalance. The cytokines are cells which basically eat, or it simply eats all the things that are just coming out from our body that is not compatible with our system. The alter immune regulation. So these are the some of the endogenous and exogenous way through which the autoimmunity mechanism just happened. Now, this is the mechanism through which the autoimmunity was prevented. So it's what exactly sequences of self antigen. So in the second line, you can see the generation and maintenance of tolerance, and then the regulatory mechanism. So generation means to produce new things, and to maintain the tolerance. Tolerance means that thing that is coming toward the system, and system first recognize it whether it's our what we call is a frame or foil. So central deletion of autoreactive lymphocytes. The lymphocyte basically derived from lymphatic system or lymph glands or lymph nodes. And it's what exactly it do, that it delete the autoreactive, all the cells that act as an autoreactive, which reacts the other cells, which provoke other cells. If someone just like we have some frames who actually provoke each other, want to tease someone, want to like bother their frame. So we simply figure out that frame and we simply take isolation from that frame. So this is what exactly happened under central deletion of autoreactive lymphocytes. Then the peripheral energy of the autoreactive lymphocytes, peripheral mean which is away from the center. So an autoreactive lymphocytes, which is like away from the system. The receptor replacement in autoreactive lymphocyte. Receptor can feel and can sense the stimuli. Stimuli mean the change from outside of our body or inside of our body. So that receptors just change their place. As a result, it's unable to sense the change coming out from outside of the body or inside of the body. And as a result, the autoreactive does not happen. And this, as a result, the preventing of autoimmunity just happens. Now, the regulatory mechanism, the regulation mean either it just not pass the line, like it should not be go beyond the lines. So regulatory T cells, regulatory B cells, regulation of mesenchymal cells. Mesenchymals are basically the cells from which new cells are formed. Like you can see, these are the blueprint of all of our body. The regulatory cytokines, the idiotype, and natural cells here. Now, these are some exogenous trigger which basically creates the autoimmunity. The bacterial viral infection, cigarette smoking, offensive dietary proteins, peptides, even chemicals such as medications and cancer cells. Inverters is equal to immune response. When these inverters just comes toward the system, so immune response just happen. So what's happened? That the cross reactivity between microbial product and self antigen, which exactly leads to activation of autoreactive lymphocytes. So reactivation of autoimmune or autoreactive lymphocytes mean that the problem will become the autoimmune. For example, we have rheumatoid arthritis RA. So antibody T and protein of Streptococcus cross-react with myosin, laminin, and other matrix protein and neuronal antigens, which basically leads to inflammation in heart and syndrome chorea after affecting brain. Like the myosin is basically the cells of muscles. Like these are the muscle cells, which was basically attacked by antibody protein of Streptococcus. So Streptococcus cross-react with myosin, and as a result, it causes the neuronal and muscular problem. So in muscular, we have seen the inflammatory heart disease, myocarditis, what we call the carditis related stuff, whether it's external, middle, or internal, and also the chorea related symptom in brain. Similarly, we have in type 1 diabetes, the SLE, systematic lupus erythemus, and MS and celiac disease. So these are some of the example of exogenous trigger. Now, what exactly the cause of AD or the autoimmune disease? The exact cause of autoimmune disease is unknown. That is the mainstream healthcare, what we call the literature. The medical literature tells us about the cause behind the autoimmune disease. But as a homeopath, we know that autoimmune disease, the main cause, the root cause of autoimmune disease is nothing. It's a miasm. It's it's a barrier or obstruction which have just created this problem. So I will try to explore these things further in my upcoming slides. So this is basically the line coming from the mainstream medical literature that, okay, the exact cause of autoimmune disorder is unknown. Some say that it results from interaction between genetic and environmental factors, and some say that few specific microorganism or drugs may trigger changes that confuses the immune system, which become incapable to distinguish between the healthy tissue and antigen. And as a result, the body sets off reaction that destroy normal tissue. So this is the main theme of the what we call the modern medical literature. So in autoimmune disorder may result the destruction of body tissue, the abnormal growth of organ, or changes in organ function. So these are the main what we call the result of the autoimmune disorder. Now, these are the some disease. I have mentioned about the types of immune response and important features about each and every disease and the self-antigen present on them. Like, for example, the autoimmune anemia. Anemia is a condition where the blood cells start reducing either RBC, WBC, or platelets. So the autoimmune hemolytic anemia, drug-induced hemolytic anemia, and pernicious anemia, which is linked with the vitamin B12. Idiopathic thrombocytopenia or ITP purpura, sorry. So it's purely linked with what we call the platelets. So the platelets membrane protein like glycoprotein 2B or 3A or YB or 9. So these are the things which basically addressed by autoantibodies. Again, platelets membrane antigen leads to low platelets count. Yeah. This is another slide which I just mentioned each and every disease, like the self-antigen present, as well as the type of immune response and important feature. So you can all simply read them. And by reading, you'll understand the main mechanism going on behind these disease. So I have mentioned the good posture syndrome, myasthenia gravis, Graves' disease, systematic lupus erythematosus, and Hashimoto thyroiditis, the post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis, IgDM or insulin-dependent diabetes mellitus, the RA, the rheumatoid arthritis, scleroderma or systematic sclerosis, Sjogren's syndrome, multiple sclerosis. So these are some of the disease which basically shows us about their like how exactly these problem will just happen, whether it's linked with gene, whether it's linked with the self antigen and all this stuff. Now, how exactly we will identify the autoimmunity? So it's about what we call the diagnosis of autoimmunity. So there is a no single test or specific test designed for most of the autoimmune disease. The anti-nuclear antibody test ANA is often one of the first tests that suggest an autoimmune disease. A positive test means you may have one of these diseases, but it won't confirm exactly the ESR, the erythrocyte sedimentation rate, and other things. So other tests being C-reactive protein and ESR, it also helps us in identifying the autoimmunity. I remember back in 2020 during COVID era, most of the people just comes and they were just so horrified and say, "Doctor, I'm suffering from corona, from COVID." And I said, "Don't need to worry about it." So first I test them, simply simple blood work. Through blood work, I'll first look toward the neutrophils, eosinophils, and lymphocytes. If these are normal, so it means the patient is normal. The next two tests that I mostly prescribe for them is a C-reactive protein or CRP or an ESR. These are the markers, the important lab test, which shows or which tells us about the unknown infection inside in our body. So these two tests simply tells us about the thing. Now, what happened when these two test results shows high level? It means that there is something going on inside of our system. Then I further investigate through their physical and mental symptoms, and then I just correlate these symptoms with their organs, respective organ. For example, if someone just come with high grade fever, having thirst, so thirst with fever basically comes from liver side. So I tried to cleanse the liver. I tried to antidote whatever inside the liver, and as a result, the fuel automatically uh, goes to this way. Now, the other test includes the autoantibody produced in certain autoimmune diseases like anti-thyroid peroxidase (ATPO) or antimicrosomal antibodies (AMA) to diagnose autoimmune thyroid disorder. In case of prognosis reduction, anti-nuclear bodies considered as a first criteria. Anti-double standard DNA titer complement level like CH50, C3, C4, ESR, CRP, complement spread products, decrease complement C1Q. Now, these are the specialized laboratory diagnosis of autoimmune disease. You can see that uh, the autoimmune disease, the autoimmune hemolytic anemia. So Coombs test in which the red cells are incubated with anti-human IgG antiserum. And IgG antibodies are present on the red cells. The cells are agglutinated by antiserum. So this is the test, a specialized test performed for hemolytic anemia. The good posture syndrome, so biopsies are the one. The SLE, so detection of autoantibodies by indirect immunofluorescence assay, we simply call ELISA-based techniques. These are the tests that basically tells us about these particular disease. The autoimmune disease, scleroderma, Sjogren's syndrome, rheumatoid arthritis. These are the laboratory diagnoses which were just mentioned in front of each and every uh, problem. Now, this is a very, very important slide. I think everyone should focus on this slide because these slide I know a little bit tricky, but once you understand the very molecular mechanism of the basis of autoimmune disease, so you will be able to brainstorm yourself as a homeopath. And there was so many remedies were just coming in your mind, and through these remedies, you will be able to tackle the autoimmune disease. So molecular basis of autoimmune disease involves a complex interplay of genetic, environmental, and immunological factors that leads to loss of self-tolerance and development of inappropriate immune response against the body on infection. Here are the key components and mechanisms involved in most of the autoimmune disease. So the first is genetic factor susceptibility genes. So there are some genes which are very susceptible towards some sort of disease, and as a result, that causes the issues. These genes often influence immune system function and regulation. For example, we have HLA, the human leukocyte antigen. So genes class 2 HLA gene are crucial for presenting antigen to T cells. Specific HLA alleles, allele is a genetic term by the way. HLA-DR4 is rheumatoid arthritis are linked to high susceptibility. Cytokines genes variation in gene encoding cytokines can affect inflammatory response. P2P and 22 genes associated with several autoimmune disease. So it encodes protein that regulate T cells. Now, how I can brainstorm and how can I like there's so many remedies coming in my mind. Well, when it comes to genetic disease, the first line, the first group of remedy that should come in your mind, that is all the remedies which comes in homeopathy under no sword title. Any homeopathic remedy which is termed as a no swords or the best remedy for addressing the genetical issues or genetic factors. The carcinosin, tuberculonium, medorrhinum, syphilinum, pyrogenum, sorinum, these are the some amazing remedies which exactly works on genetic factor. And the more deeply acting remedy, which is made up of radiation source, like the remedy made up of sunlight, so that is Sol Britannica. The remedy made up of moonlight, so that is called Luna. Similarly, the remedy made up of radiation, so we have X-ray and radium brom. So these are the some amazing remedy which really works well in genetic factors susceptible genes. Now coming toward the environmental trigger interaction, certain infection can trigger autoimmunity response by molecular mimicry, where microbial antigen resembles self-antigens leading to cross-reactivity. For example, streptococcus associated with rheumatic fever and post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis. Epstein-Barr virus linked to multiple sclerosis and systematic lupus erythematosus. Chemical exposure, environmental toxin, e.g., silica, heavy metal can trigger or exacerbate autoimmunity disease. Dietary factor, for instance, gluten exposure is a key trigger in celiac disease. Now, let me break this point through homeopathy, through perspective of homeopathy. So remember that when it comes to streptococcal infection, Orion streptococcal infection, pyrogen, any form, any type of streptococcal infection, so all the symptom will be like belladonna, belladonna-like symptom. If you remember, I just gave a lecture on one of the infection disease, and here I just mentioned the BIRD formula, BIRDS, birds. B stand for burning and bruisiness. I stand for infection inflammation. R stand for redness and rawness, RAWNESS. D stand for 3D, the dullness, drowsiness, debility. And S stand for soreness and swelling. So these are the cordial sign of infection. And whenever you see infection, so infection, we can consider all group of remedies in homeopathy, which really works well amazingly in such type of issue. Like for example, the specific remedy for streptococcal infection is streptococcinium, belladonna, silica. Yeah, silica will comes also under staphylococcinum. So in staphylococcinum, the remedy, the group of remedy that we mostly use is a pus-like remedy, compact remedy, which basically used for pus. Heap itself, silica, Myristica sevifera, Tarantula cubensis, Merck salt. These are the remedy that basically addresses the staphylococcus. Similarly, if you look more deeply in biochemical tissue salt, so kali sulf is a homeopathic remedy, and kalimir, which is basically used for streptococcal infection. It works amazingly. I think I have shared the tonsillitis protocol in my group. You can go check the group of remedy that I just selected for the tonsillitis and how to tackle the tonsillitis accordingly. So you will understand the entire mechanism of tonsillitis, and then you will not be able, like, you will not see that okay, there is a problem with that. Similarly, if you look toward the what we call the chemical exposure. So in chemical exposure, we have some amazing and very beautiful remedy which works to antidote to cancel out the chemical sensitivity or chemical exposure. The first remedy is carbolic acid. The second remedy is carboanimalus. The third remedy is carboage. So these are some amazing remedy which basically cancel out the chemical load or the chemical exposure, whether it's coming from environmental side or from anywhere. Similarly, for heavy metals, we have the group of remedies which I again caught that I just shared that in autism spectrum disorder lecture. Similarly, we have the dietary factors. So for dietary, the gluten exposure is a key trigger in celiac disease. For gluten, we can simply use a homeopathic remedy which can cancel that gluten overload. And the two top remedy that is coming in my mind is Soranum 200C and Natmer 200C. Soranum 200C can be used after 2 to 3 days if you are using in CM. So you can repeat after 10 to 15 days. And the Natmer, so Natrum eroticum 200C should be used daily 1 dose. So what exactly it will do? It will cancel out the excessive or bad effects of the gluten, and as a result, the person will not have any sort or any type of feeling of celiac disease or Crohn. Yeah. Now coming toward the immunological factor, the loss of self-tolerance. So immune system fails to recognize the body own cells as a self-reading to immune response against them. So this can result from T cell activation. The autoreactive T cells can escape thymic selection and become activated, leading to tissue damage. The B cell activation, autoreactive B cells may produce autoantibodies against self-antigen, contributing to tissue inflammation and damage. The dysregulation of regulatory T cells and B cells. So these are the immunological factors or the loss of self-intolerance. Now, the remedies that coming in my mind is basically the homeopathic remedy, which acts as a drainage remedy. The remedy that basically drain our system. For example, we have remedy called antimonium tart. So antimonium tart is a remedy in which the person is unable to expel whatever inside of his lungs. Like the person unable to expel the mucus that was just congested too much in their lungs, and as a result, that mucus just unable to comes toward the surface. So antimonium tart is the drainage remedy for lung. Similarly, for immune system, we can consider all the homeopathic remedies in which their modalities shows sensitivity from cold. Any remedy which are cold remedy. Cold remedy means the person of that remedy is extremely chilly and always want warm, like arsenicum album, silica, serenum, natrum salt. These are the amazing remedy which works well for draining or for drainage purpose of immune system of her body. Now, autoantibodies, production of autoantibodies. Many autoimmune diseases are characterized by presence of autoantibodies that target specific cell antigen. Include the anti-nuclear antibodies ANA, common in systematic lupus erythematosus, rheumatoid factor found in rheumatoid arthritis, thyroid antibodies such as thyroid peroxidase antibodies in Hashimoto's. So it means that is a cyclic reaction, and you can consider the remedy which have periodicity. Remember that term, okay? Periodicity, inverted commas, periodicity. Like many disease have their like pattern or fashion that their suffering was just worse at their specific time. Like the Natmer vorticum problem always worse around 10 a.m. at morning. The sulfur time is 11. The arsenicum album time is 2 to 3, whether it's a 2 to 3 p.m. or 2 to 3 a.m. The calicob is 3 to 4. Similarly, the Jupiterium puff, so it basically starts from 7 to 9 p.m. From 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. So you have to consider all the remedies which has periodicity, which was clearly mentioned in the modality section in the materia medica and the respective materia medica. So autoantibodies, production of autoantibodies mean that there is a loop that autoantibodies again produce the autoantibodies, and as a result, the process which is going on and the person is suffering from their problem. Now, the molecular mimicry. Molecular mimicry means that copy paste of the molecules from outside of their system. If someone is making some sort of mimicry and the molecule is exactly doing like this, so as a result, it's become the pseudo disease. So epitope spreading molecular mimicry when pathogens share structural similarity with self-antigen, so it can lead to activation of autoreactive T cells or B cells. This mechanism is implicated in disease like rheumatic fever and Guillain-Barré syndrome. Similarly, epitope spreading as the autoimmune response progresses, new self-antigen may become target of immune response, expanding the scope of autoimmune attack. Now, the remedies in which you see the mimicry, so you can consider all the remedies which has mimicry. So mimicry, graphitis is a remedy. Similarly, we have remedy called the Tarantula hispanica, the dancing mania, unable to hold on his his mind, his body. And as a result, whenever he listens some sort of music, a piece of music, so he didn't start dancing. So these are the some amazing remedy which like their characters basically like mastered the mimicry. So we can consider these remedy. And inflammation and tissue damage cytokines release. So activated immune cells release pro-inflammatory cytokines leading to tissue inflammation and damage. Inflammatory cell infiltration, immune cells infiltrate effect tissues. So these are the some damaging or inflammatory part of the part. And inflammation, you can consider all the remedies, which basically starts from B, Bacillinium, Belladonna, Baptisia, Bryonia. These are the some amazing remedy which works well in almost like all sort of the inflammatory or inflammation and tissue damage things. Yeah. Now, these are some characteristics of autoimmune disease: recognition problem, surveillance problem, internalization, destructive, suicidal. So you can simply read that thing. It's simply for your understanding. I just try to make it very simple. You can see the recognition problems mean that there is a central administration and rules. Like we can take the example of army. So the rules and regulation, and every soldier follows the discipline and works in symbiosis. But some soldiers start taking antagonist, stand and turn against the system. It is like coup, or it is like a revolt or something like this. Similarly, surveillance means to keep eye on something. So immune surveillance is a theory that immune system patrols the body not only to recognize and destroy invading pathogens, but also host cells that become cancerous. So the intelligent immune system carefully watches every happening in its laboratory. Similarly, internalization. In autoimmune inflammation, the onset of symptom is caused by reaction of immune system. But because the reaction is direct against the cell, so it becomes the internalized process of destruction. The destructive, the failure of surveillance mechanism and consequent development and aberrant immune response leads to process of destruction. Suicidal means the death, the helplessness, the paralyzed. So you will see all these characters in under suicidal things. The strange behavior, yes, acting against the self, going from harmony to disharmony is a strange behavior. So this is basically also makes a ground for AD or for autoimmune disease. Age paralyzed and helpless, the self-sacrifice, whether it's sacrifice of system or sacrifice for home. Non-acceptance, I don't accept the harmony, so much of symbiosis. Antagonism with self, going breaking rules, going against the laws. Like you can consider the causticum nature, so you will understand the thing, the medrhinum and the causticum nature. The causticum don't want any boundaries, don't want any limits. He always wants goes beyond the lines. But that's why the causticum either become colocin or it become autometallic. In colocin, there is only grief, there is only what we call the extremely anger. And autometallicum, there is a complete hopelessness as well as paralyzed. Paralyzed means the mind is unable to pull the thing or to cope or to tackle the situation accordingly. Battling against self. So these are all the issues that all the characters of the autoimmune system, autoimmune problem. Yeah, this is the part, the interesting part, and I think everyone was just waiting for this part. That is the homeopathic approach, and then my strategy and protocol while dealing with autoimmune disorder. So, in my personal experience and observation, how I look the autoimmune disease. Autoimmune disease comes under tubercular syphilitic miasm. That's why I mostly consider remedies like tuberculonium, syphilinum, or metallicum, milk salt, phosphorus, calcareous, kali iode. So these are the remedy which I mostly considered uh, for most of the autoimmune disease. No cells of body remain untouched by autoimmune disease, so all ADs need the constitutional plus miasmatic treatment. Miasm of disease according to pathology and symptomatology. In AD, symptomatology may vary, but pathology is same, similar in all cases. Maybe you will see a different symptom, but behind the symptom, the pathophysiology or the true pathology will be same. The symptoms always start at functional level, at Zurich, and ends with structural level or destruction of the structure is called syphilis miasm. As a general miasmatic protocol in autoimmune disease is to start with anti-tubercular remedy and switch over to syphilitic troponin remedy as the pathology advances. Remember, syphilinum is a complementary remedy of tuberculonium. Like when we use tuberculonium, so after tuberculonium, we can use syphilinum, so it will enhance the efficacy of tuberculonium. Tuberculosis shall be intercurrent in initial stage of autoimmune disease, and encephalitis serve as the same purpose in later stages. So general pathology in AD once virus, bacteria, or any invaders when invades the body, so protein will develop to protect tissue of the cell, and as a result, the same protein turn against the self cells and tissue. So antibodies against cell membrane, its nucleus, mitochondria, these DNA of cells were just produced, and the destruction of target tissues started. Now fight ANA in nucleus anti these DNA versus dsDNA. So this is basically the fight between the two antibodies, autoantibodies. And end of this fight will always be damage and destruction. So the theme of autoimmune disease is fight, end, and destruction. This is the line that you have to keep in mind whenever you are dealing any autoimmune disease. You have to consider all the remedies in which there is a lot of self-harming, self-abusing like symptom. Like in Aurum metallicum, so Aurum metallicum and natrum sulph, these two are the homeopathic remedies in which you will see suicidal tendency. Similarly, in Staphylococcus and carcinosin, you will see the person will start harming their own self. He will start what we call like he will compromise their own health for the sake of other people. So these are the remedies that should come in your mind whenever you are dealing with any sort of any type of autoimmune disorder. Now, fight for survival is the theme of animal remedy, and all animal remedies comes under syphilitic miasm. Animals are classified into following headings for convenience. Ophidias mean all the homeopathic remedies which basically derive from snake venom. Lexis, Naja, Botrops, Elaps, yeah, Elaps. These are the some remedies. Crotalus, Horridius, Crotalus, Cascavilla. These are the some amazing remedy which comes under Ophidia. Under spider, so in spider we have Tarantula cubensis, Tarantula hispanica, and Mygale. Mygale is a remedy which comes under spider. Insects and fishes. So in fishes, we have some amazing remedy, the sepia, the eel serum, or serum inguinum. And the insects, so there are so many remedies for it. Spider and fishes, they are anti-tubercular. As the pathology advances, one shall think about Ophidians, anti-cancerous remedy. If things are much complicated, select a medicine from insects, multimiasmatic. While selecting a mineral, one should give preference to antisyphilitic first, like antisyphilitic mineral remedies as a first choice, and then comes toward another choice. So structural changes is a theme of minerals. So my strategy is different in autoimmune disease. In my understanding, autoimmune disease are suppression of drug, suppression of disease, suppression of emotion. You have to keep in mind these things. These two slides are very important, okay? Homeopathic approach, my strategy protocol while dealing with autoimmune disorder, and the next one slide. So you have to simply memorize each and everything and make it part of your common sense or what we call your senses. So you will easily see the thing that, okay, we can easily tackle the cases in that way. Now, this is simple descriptive mechanism. Unfortunately, I didn't have a clear image, but I will try to upload it very soon if I just get it very clearly. So it's all about the expression of each and every miasm, which act as a defense mechanism of living body. For Sura, we have all inflammatory disorder. Psychosis mean accumulative and proliferative problem. Accumulative mean that anything that was just accumulated or like preserved in one place. Here we can see excessive of any problem, hyperglycemia, hypercholesterolemia, hyperlipidemia. So these hyperpigmentation, hypertension, so these are the hyper or excess and less, like dilatation of arteries, relaxation of hernias and ptosis and prolapses. So these are all actually comes under psychosis. Proliferative dynamics, so we can see the BPH, benign tumor, polyps, fibroids, psoriasis, and scales, warts, arteriosclerosis, hypertension. Similarly, for syphilis, we have some sort of slow and fast issues. All autoimmune disease are syphilis by nature. So here what's happened that slowly and gradually it start destroying the tissue, the part of the body or the organ of that part, which was just affected from the mm, from the from the autoimmune disease. And fast, so in fast we have epilepsy, degeneration issue by the way, pneumonia, cardiac infarction, or simply heart attack, the brain infarction or the stroke. anaphylaxis reaction, acute meningitis, acute renal failure, and acute leukemia. There's another chart of defense mechanism of living body. You can see that the first defense by inflammation, the second defense by growth, and the third defense by destination. I have already mentioned the syphilis, psychosis, and sura by their color. So red color says about syphilis, and the orange color says about psychosis, and the green color says about sura. So everything was just mentioned under this chart, and you will understand once you just read or just gone through from it. Now, this is the autoimmune disease and miasmatic assessment. So it is necessary to understand almost all autoimmune disorder present themselves in initial phase. The functional zone, which is characterized. So like I simply throw light on the suric perspective of autoimmune, how exactly it causes the issue. The quality of life is maintained in large, but suric miasm sets the platform for the structure change to supervene under the reign of autoimmunity with the activation of tubercular and syphilitic miasm activity. Like it is the first initial stage of the autoimmune disease, that the autoimmune disease started first once the person becomes suric. Vitiligo cases with no any subjective symptoms or any correlation with autoimmune pathogens, especially when they are only small spots of vitiligo, are suric in nature. Similarly, the psychotic miasm. So the problem of unity is to surveillance, recognition, and confusion as to identify and consequent role defining identification issues or indicate of psychotic miasm. So psychotic miasm activity, that the reasoning faculty of discrimination is affected. Confusion has a big role to play in autoimmune disorder, and hence the psychotic miasm dominance is seen in large as a large. The problem of recognition of self and non-self develop at rest level through three characters: excessive, defective, or absent. And these three basically shows about the psychotic miasm. For example, in case of rheumatoid arthritis with slow and gradual development with class 1, no restriction of ability to perform normal activity, and class 2, moderate restriction but adequate for normal activity with no sclerosis joint indicate the psychotic miasm. Psychotic miasm means you have to consider the Meteorinum, Thuya, Natrum Cervus, Starks, Delgamara. These are some top remedies which works amazingly in psychotic miasm. In tubercular miasm, the only word that describes the whole tubercular miasm is shifting. A symptom will not be similar. Like one time the symptom will be one way, but the very next day the symptom will be completely changed. So if symptoms are just changing their places, on changing their nature, so that is basically comes under tubercular miasm. Sahi? So erratic suddenness, heightened sensitivity, and rapid pace of the disease process. So these are characterized as a tubercular miasm. All autoimmune disease either beginning as a acute activity disease, but definitely heading toward the destructive or indicative tubercular miasm. Juvenile onset type 1 diabetes. Similarly, we have irreversible complication or indicative of syphilis miasm. SLE, characterized by inflammation of different organs associated with production of antibodies reactive with nuclear, cytoplasmic, and cell membrane antigen, which attacks DNA, causing widespread destruction of vital organs, kidney, heart, lung, skin, indicates syphilitic miasm. Syphilitic miasm in pathology finally leads toward destruction and unaided, irreversible changes occurs in tissue, organ, and system. So can you imagine in acute SLE the rapidity with which the disease progresses and cause havoc in multiple vital organs? In a point of note, how the self-destruction occur under the influence of syphilitic autoimmunity. So that would be very horrible. So the drug miasm. So drug miasm mean that if some sort of immune suppressive chemical drugs are used or utilized, so they have huge side effect. Although immune suppressant therapy can be used in tiding over acute crisis, it's not helpful to cure the ADs. Immunosuppressant drugs should not be stopped abruptly, and carefully monitoring necessary for the entire management. So, general, you can see these two top rubrics: generality, intoxication after medicine; generality, sensitivities, drugs toward. These are the some repertory perspective of autoimmune disease. And if you look all these rubrics, so you will see the self-destructing and self-abusive symptom, or what we call the confusion of confusion remedies. Like in a cardium, the person has two wills. He unable to decide whether I should go on right or left. So these are all actually comes under following miasm. Following rubrics. You can further check that rubrics from the different repertories, and you will see the group of remedies coming under each remedy. So I hope so. You have enjoyed this session. That's all for today. Yeah, these are the further rubrics from following disease condition. Thank you so much. And yeah. Okay. So that was the lectures that I just like delivered. Believe me, that was very, very technical lecture because I really want to make the lecture very simple, very simplified way so that everyone can understand this lecture. I'm not saying that I just done with that. If you see any gap or any deficiency in any of the lecture, you can further ask, and I will try to give another lecture on that, the same topic, and we'll try to like address all the question and all the thing that were just in your mind. So now the time is for question and answer session. If you have any question regarding this lecture about anything particular, you can simply ask. Yeah, Mary Jane want to ask something. Mary Jane.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, hello.
I had to figure out how to unmute myself there. So, when it comes to the gluten, are you saying
Yeah.
that you can actually be able to have gluten down the road by taking Serenum and Natmir? Will it correct the issues with gluten?
Well, when it comes to gluten, so first we have to understand why the person is sensitive or susceptible toward the gluten. Remember that in our body, we have a gland called liver, and the liver is the hub of enzymes. We have around 300, sorry, not 300, but 3,000 enzymes. Whatever we are eating, whatever we are engulfing, putting in our mouth and just goes directly in our gut. So what's happened when these things just enter in our system? So liver releases the particular type of enzyme which can chop that food, that stuff, that thing that was just going inside of our system, and then it digested properly. So what's happened? That again, I'm going to repeat that thing: suppression of drug suppression, emotion suppression, drug suppression, and disease suppression. So either of these three, what's happened that someone just simply make a small, yeah, the black strip around the liver. The liver become completely blind. The liver is unable to throw their proper enzyme toward the gut so that the gluten can easily be digested and can easily be chopped down. So we can see that this is not the problem with gluten. This is a problem, by the way, with the liver, that new liver is unable to throw the specific and particular enzyme required for the digestion of the gluten. So what exactly we will do, that we will hire two people who can exactly works like liver in initial cases, and these two people are Sorinum and Natmer. Sorinum is a remedy. If you read the Materia Medica of Sorinum, so Sorinum basically is a remedy which cancel out excessive or loaded effect of gluten. And Natmer, so Natrum eroticum is the homeopathic remedy. It's a biochemical tissue salt remedy made up of salt that the person of Natmer always craves for bread. And we all knows that bread is basically comes from dough, and the dough is made up of gluten. Yeah, so Natmer will simply address that craving, and also it will make the gut capable to digest it properly. Those what we call the gluten stuff that just going on, that just engulfing in our system. So whenever you are dealing with gluten, so you have to consider the remedies first, like you have to cleanse the gut by using the remedies which can clear the suppression. Is for example, if you are clearing the drug suppression, so you can use Nux vomica 30 daily one dose and sulfur 30 daily morning before breakfast. for about a week, for about 10 days, for about 15 days, as per the condition of the patient. So what exactly it will do? The Nux will simply cleanse the entire gut, start from mouth and end with the rectum. And the sulfur will simply open all the suppressed channels and the small blood vessels inside of the liver. And as a result, the liver will easily throw their bile and the other enzymes directly toward the gut. And the gut will be capable, like it will become the churning machine. It can churn and can blend and can chop anything that was just coming toward the gut. And as a result, the liver will be able to start digesting. So I have seen in many chronic cases that whenever I'm starting the Nux, Vomica 30C, and Sulfur 30C in the very first phase, in some cases, it just lasts for about a week, and in some cases it lasts for about 10 to 15 days. So many people just start seeing the improvements. Their bowel movement was restored, their sleep was okay after that, like all the vital signs were restored after taking these two remedies. So this is the way that these two things will help a lot of people. So you have to first understand the gluten, that how exactly it was started, whether it started from the birth time, the moment the person was just born. So then you can use the remedies like X-ray, Sol, carcinosin. As per my own style, these three remedies mixed together and use one dose after every 1 month. And what exactly it will do, that it will goes deeply, more deeply toward the gene level, toward the chromosomal level, and will correct the things. And then use the other remedy according to causation. For example, if someone just started the celiac disease or the gluten intolerance after taking too much raw form of gluten or something like this with their diet. So we have to first cancel out, we have to reduce the overload of that gluten inside of their system. And then we have to use the remedies according to the symptoms produced from the celiac. Most of the celiac basically comes under a remedy called Alsonia. Alsonia is the homeopathic remedy which we mostly use for camp diarrhea, the diarrhea that mostly happen when someone is going for camping. I have seen in teenage boys and girls when they are just going outside with their class fellows for some sort of camps, school camps, summer camps, or so many things. And during these camps, they have diarrhea. So diarrhea for that the remedy is Alsonia. Similarly, we can also consider the remedies called VCAP, VCAP. So V stand for Veritrum album, C stand for Crutentig and China, A stand for Arsenicum album and aloes, and P stand for Podophyllum. So whenever the diarrhea case comes, you have to consider any one remedy. Keep in mind one remedy at one time, not combining every time that, okay, you are just making a VCAP combination in your handy notes like ready-made combo. Yeah, you can do that if you are a mom and you're so busy to think about whether I should use the V, C, or A, or P. So you can simply make that. Yeah. Spell those out. Yep. Yeah. So Rebecca Fricks just asked about that. I'm going to cheat with that. Okay, so we keep yeah. We keep, so we stand for Veritrum album, C stand for Crutentig and China, Crutentig and China, China of Cinelis. A stand for aloes, aloes socotrina, not Katrina. Aloes socotrina and Arsenicum album. Yeah. And P stand for Podophyllum. Yeah. Again, I'm going to refine it. I'm going to add two more remedies. So under C, you can add carboH. And under P, you can add soranum. Now, my strategy is very simple. If someone just comes with diarrhea, when they just comes to my clinic, so they have about 2, 3, 4, 5, or multiple times of frequent rest room visits already he has done or she has done. So the first dose that I use them is a Carboage 200C. Carboage is the complementary remedy of Arsenicum album. Carboage acts when the Arsenicum album fails to it. It's a remedy for people who actually eat some sort of spoiled foods, processed foods, canned food, or what we call any food that causes food poisoning. So carboage is a remedy because whenever the food poisoning comes, the very first remedy that hits our mind, that is Arsenicum album. But carboage is the remedy which works amazingly, just single dose, because it enhances the oxygen saturation. So when the person comes to my clinic, at that time, all his sodium, potassium, electrolytes are completely gone. He's completely collapsed. He's completely cold. He unable to move. He hasn't any energy in his body. So what exactly I do? I simply first start from Carboage 200C. So Carboage 200C enhance the oxidation or the oxygen saturation. The next remedy that I use is Bacillinium CM. The Bacillinium is the bacterial remedy. It addresses all pathologies of chest and abdomen. In chest, we have too much mucus. The mucus is full. So Bacillinium, you all knows that I mostly use Bacillinium CM straight 4 doses on same day with 3 hours apart from each other. In abdominal pathologies, I mostly use Bacillinium CM 1 dose only. Now, for example, if a patient comes around 3 p.m. and I use the Carboage 200C, so around like 5 or 6 p.m., you can use the Bacillinium. And around 8 or 9, you can then use Soranum. Soranum CM, Soranum 200C or CM, it's a complementary remedy of all TB nosodes, whether it's a tuberculonium, whether it's a Bacillinium, whether it's a Evairi, whether it's a Hypoxenum. These 4 are the most famous TB nosodes in Materia Medica. Evairi, Aviari, Evairi, yeah. Another name of another remedy made up of TB nosode, that is TB of ducks, that is Hypoxenum, HIPPO, or you can simply start from hippo. Yeah, so Hypoxenum. The third one is Bacillinium and tuberculonium. You all know these two are very famous, very quickly and very easily prescribed in so many comments, posts. People just comes and asks randomly, Dr. Ikram, you have a protocol for that? Yeah. Okay. So this is these 3 remedies will simply release the person, the patient, from ER room. He will be stabilized after taking these 3 doses. Then after that, you can use any of the remedy that comes under VCAP. If the person has vomiting and diarrhea at the same time, so the remedy will be Veratrum album 200C. Veratrum album 200C is a stimulant of heart. You have seen people, whenever they have some sort of cardiac pathology, they just goes to ER room. So doctors basically stimulate their heart by pressing with some sort of pieces on their chest. So the Veratrum album is a remedy which exactly work like that. You can use without any hesitation in any cardiac patient, whether it's a serious patient or anyone. It works amazingly. It's a stimulant of heart. The cape, the crouton tick. So crouton tick person, whenever that person will sit on the toilet chair, so the stool will be thrown like that someone just putting injection. If you just fill the injection and just throw them in the toilet room or toilet seat, so that type of stool you will see in the crouton tick. And China off, you know, the loss. China off is the remedy for loss of fluid, whether that fluid can be blood, can be water, can be anything. But keep in mind that must be a fluid. China off when fails to act, so acid fast comes. Yeah. The only difference between the China off and acid fast that in China off there is too much weakness. In acid fast there is no weakness. The person will have a diarrhea, but he has no weakness at all. So that is the only difference between these two remedies. And then aloes, so aloes person, so aloes basically has no control on his rectal muscles. Anytime he can have a stool accident, we have seen in children's and very old age population. So aloes is a remedy which restore the power, the strength of the rectal muscle. There was a very famous figure who always wear a diaper. Yeah, I don't want to recall his name. I think you just guess. Yeah. Okay, so P stands for podophyllum. Podophyllum is the best remedy for summer diarrhea. It works amazingly in 200C. But if you use in CM, so it will act oppositely. In CM, it works best on constipation, not diarrhea. So if person having diarrhea, you don't need to use the CM podophyllum. Otherwise, the case will be worse. Mary Margaret Donner, if you remember, in one of the very stubborn case of constipation, you have used podophyllum once.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is the way that you have to tackle the gluten intolerance or celiac disease. When you just open, when you just break down the case in a symptoms wise, so you will see, oh my God, that's very simple. Just take a dose of nuts and basilinum, or just take a dose of carbohydrate, basilinum, and then serenum. If case is very chronic, you can use some sort of miasmatic remedies like carcinosin, basilinum, meteorinum, thuya, CBMT. Yeah.
Mhm.
There's a successful case testimony you can see in a Banerjee protocol group. One of the lady was actually having mom of about a 17 or 18-year-old boy, and he was suffering from from celiac disease since last 6 years. And under my treatment, his problem was just completely fixed in just 2 months, only 2 months. Yeah,
Good.
yeah. So this is the thing that you have to do. Now, just coming toward the other people, if you have any question regarding today's session, yeah, you can ask. I'm here. Yeah. Hello. Hello. Hello.
There are a few questions in the chat, Ikram. One
Yeah.
of them are
One of
all
the
food.
questions. Yeah. All due to liver weakness. Yes. Up to some extent, yes. But most commonly, if someone have some sort of food related allergy, I first focus on what's happened, because most of the time it's not linked directly with the liver first. It first linked with the mind. Like for food allergies or for food intolerance, if there's a diarrhea, or if the gut is disturbed by very slight effect of change of diet, so the remedy will be natrum carb. Natrum carb is the principal remedy for food allergy or for food intolerances. Natrum carb, it's amazing remedy. It also makes the new young couple, very soon they become the parents of very beautiful children's, because the natrum carb is the homeopathic remedy, which is basically, yeah, what about dairy intolerance? Exactly. The natrum carb works amazingly. For dairy intolerance, remember these remedies, okay? Dairy intolerance, if person has vomiting, Ethusa, Calcarea carb, and Ferrum metallicum. These three are the remedies. The dairy intolerance, if person is having diarrhea, the remedy will be natrum carb. Uh, the dairy intolerance with constipation, remedy will be magnesium mure. Constipation, along with magnesium mure, you can consider lac defloritum. Lac defloritum is a remedy which is made up of milk. It also works well in constipation of people suffering from dairy intolerance. Whenever they just consume some dairy, so they have constipation. Their gut becomes sluggish. The gut movement becomes sluggish. Mold. Yeah, Barbara just asked about mold. Well, mold is a very large topic. I think I already covered this in one of my lectures. You can just simply go to that lecture, just read the slides and the recording of that lecture. So still, if you have then any question, then you can come and ask about that. Right now, we are just purely focused on the autoimmune disease. And if you have any live case with you, or you really want to share with me, whether it's your client, whether it's your any family member, or your friend or neighbor or anyone, you can simply ask about that. And I will try to come toward the main remedy and then the causes behind it, whether physiologically, miasmatically, yeah, in a different way.
Ikram, I have a question, please.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm
yeah.
sorry. Am I speaking out of turn or
No.
am I okay? Okay. So if somebody had, and I don't know what to label it exactly, but an autoimmune thyroid issue prior, and I'm saying this autoimmune, then this is actually about me, so I'll just speak out. Goiter, numbers were off, and I don't really remember what they are. Loss of eyebrow in that, outer quadrant. But when you go and you have all your tests and, not just the TSH or T3, T4, but just the whole thing, the whole antibodies, everything, perfectly normal. But you still suffer from like every one of those symptoms. Can you have had this autoimmune in the past and now you don't have the autoimmune? I mean, I've not treated this homeopathically, but can you now be normal? Can I trust these tests to say, yes, I'm fine? Or do I treat my symptoms and say, I don't feel fine and move towards treatment?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. You have a very, very good question. Believe me, it really makes me happy. One of the question that you just asked about that, okay, if someone have some symptom of what we call the thyroid related, all the eyebrows were just vanished, and maybe the person has the past history of the autoimmune thyroid related issue, but right now he's fine. So the tests, the number says normal, but how exactly we will tackle such cases? So my answer is very simple. We don't treat numbers and tests. We treat person. The very first thing, as a homeopath, it's not my belief, but it must be the belief of every homeopath that we are not trained to tackle only the numbers. Okay, the number is going down or just go up. No, we don't need to look toward that. Very simple, very simple. You have to first try to find out that why it's happened. Remember, there is a mineral that whenever we have deficiency of that mineral, so it creates that symptom that you just mentioned, the vanishing of the eyebrows and the hairs and all that. So even the whole body hair will just vanish. That remedy in homeopathy, that is called selenium. Now, selenium is the raw material for T4, tetraiodothyroidine, which we simply call T4, the main hormone of the thyroid. The thyroid T4 converts into T3 with the help of vitamin B12, with the help of selenium. If there is a deficiency, if there is an inadequate quantity of that selenium and vitamin B12, so T4 not maturely converts into T4. And as a result, the numbers will be say that, okay, I'm present as a T3, but quality wise, the T3 in itself has deficiency of these two important minerals, the vitamin B12 and the selenium. So if you read the selenium skin symptom only, I'm not saying you have to go and just go all the one by one, the line one by one word of selenium materia medica. Just go to selenium materia medica and go toward the skin symptom only. You will see the hair fall like symptom. Every hair will be vanished. The mustache, the beard, the eyebrows, the entire hair will be far. So these are all actually the deficiency of selenium. And for deficiency purpose, you can take selenium supplements, number one. Number two, there's a very famous speaker. He's not a doctor. He's actually the health coach, by the way. His name is Gary Brecka. Ma'am, Rita Davidson, do you recall that person? Gary Brecka. I think I once shared one of the video in the diabetes group, and you just asked about it. How can I further watch their other videos? I still remember your comment. Yeah, I have very sharp memory. I still remember that. Okay, so he actually says that you have to take the supplements, only that supplements which are methylated. CH3, methylated. The methyl mean that the supplement is preserved. For example, that is selenium. And there's a methyl group here and here. So what exactly it will do? It will keep the selenium properly, or it will seal properly. So as a result, selenium will not be vanished. What's happened if we directly consume selenium in our body? So it will not work exactly like this that we were just talking about. So the very first thing, if you want to use a selenium supplement, I'm completely okay with that. We all as a homeopath must be okay with that. But if you really want to take selenium through homeopathic remedies, so you have to simply start from the very low potency. And I have used it in 3x, selenium 3x. It works amazingly, especially in diabetes people, in diabetic patients, yeah. And again, I'm going to repeat that. Mostly diabetic cases having deficiency of imported raw material required for the proper function of the thyroid. So thyroid is the main gland responsible for making a person diabetic. That is the true chemistry. That is the true logic behind what is going on behind the what we call the thyroid gland. So this is your answer, that the symptom that you just mentioned, it's not directly linked with the thyroid. It's directly linked with what we call the deficiency of the imported coenzyme factors, like vitamin B12 and minerals like selenium. These are very, very essential for the thyroid. So once you have enough quantity, and you've also mentioned the goiter. So goiter basically linked with the iodine deficiency, iodinized salt. Yeah. Back in 1970 and 80, there were too many TV ads that were just talking about that. Okay, we have that salt which is iodinized. You have to use them properly, and blah blah blah. Yeah. So whether you are using iodinized salt, but keep in mind that it must be methylated. Methylation is a very important step. If there is a problem with methylation, so whatever you are eating, whether it's a supplement or food, it will not create any change in your body. And you can simply search that. Whenever you are searching anything on Amazon or anywhere on online, any supplement, just simply put methylated and then that supplement name. That's it.
Yeah, I know I have the genetic defect for methylation. Yeah. I had that tested. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the thing. And you don't need to rely purely on the numbers. You have to look toward the person, because the person is suffering, not the lab reports and that piece of paper on which all that report was compiled. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now coming toward the Tammy bread. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
So I've been studying a lot about the thyroid, and it's kind of tricky because, everything in the body is linked and interacts, right? And so you have the thymus, and you have the pineal and pituitary, and how far up the stream do you go? Where do you begin to treat a thyroid problem? Do you start at the thyroid, or like you said, with the selenium, with the supplement, or do you keep going back, and where does the problem begin to get to the root cause of what's off?
Yeah. Yeah.
And like you said, it's probably the mind.
Yeah, coming toward it. Yeah, thank you so much. You've also hide the answer of your question in your question, by the way. And the answer is the mind. The mind in itself, because in one of my lecture on the thyroid, you can see the go big and all the lecture slides on the thyroid. So remember, the thyroid basically affects, or it really affected from the state: stress, tension, anxiety, depression. Stress, tension, anxiety, and depression. Now you have to open the what we call the main biochemistry and pathophysiology going on behind what exactly happened if someone is very stressful. What exactly happened if someone have too much tension about anything or anxiety about anything? What happened exactly if someone is suffering from depression, the clinically proven diagnosed depression, and how they just tackle that. For example, if someone is suffering from depression, so depression means the person has low or zero serotonin, the happy hormones. And one of the very interesting thing, the 80% of happy hormones, the serotonin and dopamine, lies not here, but in our gut. And for making properly the serotonin and dopamine, there's no need to put more serotonin and more dopamine. No, we have to simply provide the raw material. That raw material can be homocysteine, L-arginine, vitamin D3, vitamin B12, vitamin C. These are the raw material. If you simply provide these raw material to your body, so the body has capability to convert it into proper serotonin. Once the serotonin level is just boosted, so automatically the person will comes out from the depression. Otherwise, he will taking for lifelong SSRI, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, which basically technically lowering down the serotonin. And by definition, depression is nothing. It's a state where the person has very low and inadequate what we call the serotonin. So I always start whenever someone suffering from thyroid problem. Thyroid is actually under the instruction works under the instruction of pituitary gland. Pituitary gland works under the instruction of the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus linked with the mind. Now, for what exactly I do, that instead of talking with sergeant, I directly bargain or talk with general. Yeah, we're sitting in the headquarter. So then that general direct give instruction to their subordinates, and slowly gradually the thing just come toward that sergeant. So thyroid is a sergeant and the mind is general. So we don't need to say that, okay, we have to play. No, you have to say, you have to clearly listen to me. No, you have to listen to me properly. Say, no, I have a very clear order. I can't help you. Okay, just don't help me. I'm going to your general. I'm going to your superior. And your superior means your mind. When I goes to your mind, so I just talk with your mind. What's going on with you? I say, oh my God, I have very low happy hormones. I can't work properly. When I just goes more deeply and say that what's happened with you, okay, so you are not happy, it means that you have deficiency of serotonin and dopamine. So for enhancing serotonin, I will provide you some raw material and you can then make your own recipe. You know about the recipe, how to make the serotonin properly, because the body has capability. The God has created such a beautiful system in our body that it has capability that if we provide a proper raw material toward it, so it's simply converted into their true form. So this is the answer of your question, that you have to deal with mind first. And for mind, when it comes, so mind is linked with gut, and gut is the second brain of our body. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, so ma'am, there was a question. Just wait. Okay, so one question was about leukocytoclastic vasculitis, autoimmune. Okay, you're just confirming whether it's autoimmune or not. Okay, well, it depends on the condition on a person. Can you explain where this start from? Okay, vasculitis. So vasculitis definitely mean that it linked with the vessels, the blood vessels or the veins, where mostly that uh, the blue, yeah, the spider wings, what just happened, the varicose veins, or the veins related pathology, by the way. So the veins has construction like this, that it only carries blood from body parts toward the heart. So when there is some problem with the blood, so the vessels become swollen and either become vasculitis or it become the varicose veins. So we have to improve the circulation by using the remedies which can reduce the overload of the toxicity inside the blood, the ignition, vestifolia, laxis, and all that stuff, the carboage. And for veins, we can use the remedies hemamelis, calcarea floor, arnica. These are some remedies which can use. Yeah. And for leukocytotic purpose, we can use the remedy natrum sulf, silica. These basically stand with calcarea floor and other remedies and works amazingly. So yes, this is the autoimmune issue and it can be taken very beautifully with the homeopathy. Yeah. Now coming toward the next question. Yeah, sorry. There is a thing that was just asked about a lot of children in the 50s and 60s had radiation in the adenoid destroying the thyroid gland. Okay, so it's very simple, it's very crystal clear. If someone just have some sort of radiation back in 1960 or 70, so that person should take X-ray 30C, 3 doses, and then radium brom 30C. Slowly and gradually, the thyroid will be normal in 2 to 3 months. Yeah. And one of the last question, I think it was about new replies. Genetic factor called lipoprotein, lipo-A, and even though your HDL and trigger one. Okay. Well, unfortunately, you were just asked about one of the called the lipo acid or lipids based the thing, the gene. Remember, if you really want to diagnose earlier your stroke as well as your heart related pathology, you have to perform only one test, and that one test will tell you whether you should have any sort or any type of problem of your heart or not. And that test is total calcium score. Now that is also your assignment. You can make this assignment for yourself and simply go to Google and just search that what exactly mean of total calcium score. Total calcium score mean that how much calcium lies inside of your blood vessels, inside of the body internal parts and organs. And that calcium basically makes plaques combined with cholesterol and triglyceride, especially with LDL and triglyceride. And as a result, the person has blockage in their arteries. And that blockage is further cleaned by putting a small stunt, a spring or stunt inside it, which is not the solution. We have a very beautiful remedy called Criticus. The Criticus mother tinctures, that is the remedy which basically cleans the calcareal deposits from the. You can read the Materia Medica of William Porrick. You will amaze how genius that guy was back in 1920, I think he was died in 1922. And he was writing down that Materia Medica around 1910 or before the First World War. And he knows about the Criticus works amazingly. It cleans the clogged arteries, the heart. Why it's a heart tonic? Why? Just because of that, it reduces the calcium overload inside the system. So you can simply go and say that, yeah, Criticus, exactly. The Criticus hawthorn, yeah, that is the name of the Criticus plant, hawthorn, HAWTHORN. If someone just knows about that, please write it down in the comment section, in the chat bar, so that the people can easily understand why exactly I'm saying that. Criticus, yeah, thank you so much, Sandra. Thank you so much. Yeah, hawthorn, exactly. You can easily get that mother tincture very easily, but keep in mind, you don't need to use directly and blindly. Otherwise, the heartbeat will be enhanced. Because if it's used blindly, because I'm one of the person who's also the prover of this remedy. it is on the list of that 35 or 36 remedy that I have proved on myself. So Critigus Q, I've used it for straight 1 month. And after straight 1 month, I was on bed for about a week. Because whenever I just going to somewhere, my heartbeat will be high. But that was one of the symptoms, and then I simply used a remedy called Econite and Rustox, and the problem was vanished completely. Till date, I haven't seen any problem. Yeah, but it has created one of the amazing thing in me. It reduces my weight around 10 to 12 kg. So someone just coming to my clinic and saying, Dr. Ikram, I just tried every method and my weight is not going to reduce. What should I do? So I say, okay, you can simply use the Criticus, so that the Criticus can bring some sort of their proving symptoms, and as a result, the person will be free from some of their body weight. It will enhance the heartbeat, and as a result, the excessive calories, excessive body fats will be burned through that heartbeat. Because when someone is running, so heartbeat is enhanced. It means the burning process was just started very inside at cellular and molecular level.
So would that be good for someone with bradycardia, where their heart rate is maybe in
Yeah.
the high 50s
Exactly.
or about 60?
Yeah, for bradycardia, the Criticus is not only one remedy. Another remedy is a cactus, and then gelsemium, and then coffea crude, then glutinum. These are some amazing remedy which works amazingly. The lilium tig, which really works well in bradycardia, because I still remember the 2016. I was only taking at that time the cardiac cases, but later on, due to facilitation issue, I start reducing the number of that clients, because heart is the only one organ, and that is the organ which cannot be replaceable by anything. So that's why I said that's very risky. I'm a homeopath. Homeopathy is already comes under inverted commas. So that's why I simply say that okay, I can deal some of the acute issue, some thing which can easily be deal with homeopathy. But when it comes to proper deeply acting issues, I simply say that okay, that is a consent form. If you really want to start a proper homeopathic treatment, you should strictly follow it. Otherwise, you can go for some sort of cardiologist or thing like that. Yeah. The mother tincture, the Criticus, can be taken 10 to 20 drops in half cup of water 3 times a day. Mother tincture works amazingly. One of the source in United States is herbieherbs.com. Am I right, ma'am?
Yes.
Mary Mark Donor. Yeah, the herbieherbs.com. That's amazing. I just gone through from their website. They offer according to your quantity, according to your nature. If you really want to make a mixed blend, just tell them, okay, Dr. Ikram is using one of the heart combo, the cardiotone drops. It has 4 mother tinctures, ACCA. ACCA. A stands for Arjuna mother tincture, Arjuna terminula. C stands for Criticus, another C stands for cactus, and the last A stands for Allium sativa, the garlic, the mother tincture made up of garlic. So when you combine in equal quantity these 4 mother tinctures, and anyone suffering from some sort of heart trouble and heart issues, so these 4 mother tincture works amazingly in such people. Just wait, I'm going to write it down. You can go to chat bar. I will write it down, the HCA cardiotone drops. There was a question asked about the wolf. Yeah. Many drops 3 times a day. Yes, exactly. 10 to 15 drops. if someone had Wolff-Parkinson White syndrome in past, can they take criticus indefinitely? Well, I can't say yes or no because I don't know about the other issues that the person was suffering from. So that's why it would be better if they just give me a complete case, because that is not a very simple thing. That is a very complicated, because when it comes to Parkinson's, so Parkinson is a neurodegenerative problem, and you cannot fight with a single nail with the entire army. So the mother tincture cannot deal with a chronic case. For chronic case, you have to make yourself bigger. You have to become like you have to train yourself in such a way that if you are just throwing a ball to someone, so that it can penetrate inside of their system. And it means that you have to try no sorts. You have to use the high potency. Otherwise, you will only be able to palliate the issue, but you won't be able to cure it permanently and completely. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to give you only 10 minutes further. If you have any question, please let me know so that I can answer it quickly. And also, I'm not saying that's all for that. You can still just go to the file section and then read the slides of today's lecture. If you have any problem, you can also go for recording. And I hope so that my mortgage donor will upload that recording. Also, if you have any suggestion for the upcoming lecture, you can simply throw them, because right now I will try to deliver lecture after every week or after every 10 days. There will be no such a huge break. Yeah.
What would you recommend if someone tested high for the D-dimer test, but they didn't have the shots, but they did have the COVID virus?
Oh, okay. Well, remember that there is no such strandable test designed so far for the corona or COVID. The D-dimer is not a thing which basically tells us about the virus. It's about that. I already told you that we don't
Well,
deal.
the D-dimer checks to it checks if you have clots in your system. That's what the D-dimer is.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I know about that. But I'm saying that we have to first look toward that, why the person going for D-dimer. What are the things that really makes him that, okay, I should do the D-dimer first. So we have to understand that scenario first. That thing, if someone have taken shots, the COVID shots or any shots, so we have to look toward the organ which was affected from that shot. Whether it's the entire body, whether it's the one organ or one system. So first, we will antidote, cancel out, or drain that gland or that system, which is affected from that thing. And then we come toward the presenting complaint, the P4 symptom, the present, persistent, peculiar, and predominant symptom. And then we deal with it accordingly. So when it comes to proper what we call the D-dimer, so before D-dimer, so I will simply ask that why you just simply go there and say,
Well, they had a blood test for the SARS-CoV-2.
yeah.
And they tested high on that. They just had the virus, but they didn't have any of the shots. So they tested with the SARS-CoV-2 in a blood test, and they tested high D-dimer.
Okay. Well, when you say SARS, COVID, so it was not COVID, it's only the SARS test. SARS was already the issue that was just established before the COVID. SARS means the severe acute respiratory syndrome, and it basically comes with so many complications. So when the D-dimer is high, so we will also look toward the symptoms, the physical symptoms, the emotional symptoms, what are things that the person is suffering from or feeling like, so then we can use the remedies accordingly. Because it's not about it. I have seen many people having high number of their tests, but physically they are completely okay. So, oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Oh my God, what's happening? There was some sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
Some sort of creature walking around me. Okay. So this is the question that you just asked about the D-dimer. So along with the high number of D-dimer, there is no specific thing that I can say that, okay, I should use that remedy for the D-dimer and that would reduce the D-dimer. No, I will ask also about the symptoms. So D-dimer is only the pathological aspect of the case. I will also look toward the subjective symptom, objective symptoms, about the constitution and temperament. What are the causes? What are the things that really makes him to go for the testing a SARS-CoV or for D-dimer? Yeah.
I have another question if no one else does.
Yeah, the Mycin gig is still having sensitivity to pork, even if it's heated in the house. Okay, the principal remedy for pork, the first thing I will suggest not to eat pork. I'm not saying being a Muslim, you all know that pork is not allowed in many faiths and many things, but the principal remedy for pork is antimonium crude. Antimonium crude is the remedy which works amazingly for people who actually eat pork or crave pork. Yeah, there's a lot of studies on it that if pork meat is cooked properly enough, but still have these porks have a lot of bacteria and the microorganism inside of their meat. So you have to avoid it, and you have to become like me in a sense that I'm a vegetarian. I love raw food. I love pure organic food, and I don't like dairy things. The only thing that I love is yogurt. Yeah. Okay. Any other question?
Ikram,
I
what
think she asked what potency.
Yeah, the antimonium crude 30C, 30C.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it works amazingly. Okay, the last clinical tip that I'm going to give you, and after that, I think the session will be finished. I'm using a combination in my clinical practice for almost all sort and all types of digestive related troubles, and it works amazingly. This combination has 4 remedies. All remedies are in 30C potency, and I mostly mix in equal quantity each remedy. If you are using this combination, so you can simply take like for example 10 drops from each remedy in either in one small bottle of vodka or some sort of ethanol or alcohol, or you can take 2, 3, or 4 pellets from each remedy, mix or dissolve in a bottle of water, and use that bottle of water 2 to 3 days straight. This combination called is gastrocid. This combination has 4 remedies. The first remedy is Arsenicum album 30C. The second remedy is antimonium crude 30C. The third remedy is pulsatilla 30C. And the last remedy is Califos 30C. Yeah. So this is the way that you have to use. This combination called gastrocid. It works amazingly. Now I'm telling to Tammy Braids, please use this combination. Not just only for yourself, for your son, for Gay, for any of your family member, you will see the amazing result from it. Even okay. I'm also using, whenever I have meal cheat, this combination really works amazingly. The Arsenicum album and Califos, these 2 remedies addresses the anxiety. Yeah, gastrocid. The CID comes from acid. Gastrocid has 4 remedies: Arsenicum album 30, antimonium crude 30, pulsatilla 30, and Califos 30.
How many times a day did you say to take it?
Yeah, 2 times a day, twice a day, 2 times a day. One dose around 2 p.m., another dose around 7 or 8 p.m. Yes, exactly, the gastrocid.
And what is that good for, Ikram? For all gastro symptoms?
Arsenicum album and Califos. These two remedies addresses the anxiety. If someone just not happy and just sit in front of their plate, and okay, they have like they are very hungry, but due to some sort of emotional, mental, what we call anxiety, they're unable to eat something. So that is the first thing. The pulsatile and antimonium crude. So pulsatile and antimonium crude is a great remedy. It will make the stomach in such a way that it can churn, it can blend, it can digest anything. So pulsatilla, basically the remedy which addresses the bad effect from the fatty rich food. And antimonium crude is a remedy which, if someone just taking too much food, like I have seen many people just eat beyond the line. For people having overeating behavior or overeating issue.
Would this help motility at all, Ikram?
Sorry?
Would this help motility, like speed up the flow of food through the intestines?
Yes, exactly. The antimonium crude is a remedy which basically push the food stuff from stomach toward the intestine, and from intestine toward the rectal, and from rectum toward the toilet seat. Yeah. So these 4 remedies works amazingly, and I will suggest just take a single dose from these 4 remedy based combination for yourself for testing purpose. Just take that 1 dose only and see the results from it, and see how exactly your POOP is.
Thank you.
Yeah. When you are just coming out from your restroom, you'll be happy enough.
Nice tip to end the call with.
Yeah. So that's all for today. If you have any question left, whether it's related to this today topic or for any other thing, you can simply come toward the Virtual Academy of Homeopathy Facebook forum, ask the question, and I will try to give you best answer that no one will be able to give that answer in any of the Facebook group, because my answer is not the thing that was just coming directly from my mind. Sometimes if I'm sitting in front of my laptop, so I take that symptom, analyze it properly with the help of my softwares, and then I just suggest remedies accordingly. So this is the way, this is the training that I just take, and I will definitely give you answer, reliable answer, accordingly. Last thing that I really want to say to Ma'am Rita Davidson, the next number is your. So maybe tomorrow or day after tomorrow, I'll be going to talk with you. I know there's a very large gap that I wasn't able to talk with you, so that I can discuss your voice. So we will then talk either tomorrow or day after tomorrow. Yeah. So that's all. Thank you so much. Stay blessed. Be happy always. Countless blessings upon you and all of your families. Tata, bye-bye. Have a look.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.